Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Location Independence podcast. And I'm here with Robert. Robert from Pocket Listing. Nice to see you again.
It's always a pleasure, Michelle. Hello, everyone.
So today we're going to be talking about exploring high-yield investment areas in the Middle East. This is continuing with our theme of the Middle East. If you're already sick of the Middle East, there are other podcasts talking about many other things, but I'm really passionate about the Middle East. I think it's a really beautiful area. It has a lot of culture. It's underexplored, I think, and particularly coming from the US, we have like bad ideas about the Middle East. We've heard all sorts of horrible things, and actually totally different if you go in person. If you're adventurous like me, you go anyway, and then you find out that actually there was never anything to be afraid of. So we're going to talk about there's a lot of really high yield areas in the Middle East, and I think a lot of these places people are not talking about outside of the Middle East because they haven't heard of them. And Robert here specializes in the US. He's American. We're both American. But he also specializes in the Middle East. And so I have him on today to talk through kind of some of the high yield areas, places that you want to be looking at in the next like 10, I assume 10 to 20 years, but definitely in the next 5 years. And so before we get into it, Robert, anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that, a lot of people have misconceptions of what the Middle East is and how the lifestyle is and how they treat people and your freedoms and so forth. And I think that most people are not understanding how great of an opportunity it is to invest and live in the Middle East. And until they go visit, it's very difficult for them to make that decision. And so please go see it for yourself rather than just listen to other people and what they have to say, especially from people who've probably never been there.
Yeah, amazing. So to get started, we want to just kind of give an overview of the Middle East landscape. There's a lot of countries in the Middle East, and we want to highlight on a few that we believe are forward-thinking, that are good investment opportunities right now because they're really putting a lot of money into the future. And these are countries where the government sees becoming more of a global city as the right move for their country. And so they've kind of changed the legal landscape to fit more of a global theme, to be more multicultural and not generic, but just like applicable to everyone. And so the countries that we're going to talk about today are our favorite, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Oman. So getting into this, there are a few different areas where if you want to invest, this is the area to invest: real estate, oil and renewables, technology, and infrastructure. I would say we, just based on our specialty, are more of real estate people because this is where we feel comfortable. If you know me, you know about my background. I've worked in real estate for over a decade now. Robert, how long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate for 11 years now.
Yeah. So this is what we know. This is what we eat, sleep, breathe. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm like, I can like go down the rabbit hole of real estate. Last night I was supposed to go to sleep and I was looking at real estate in Portugal the whole night and stayed up until 2 a.m. looking at real estate in Portugal, rather than going to bed at a sane hour. And so like this is just our passion. It's not to say that there aren't other things to invest in. It's just what we're good at. And if you did want to go into other areas, I'm going to try and get some guests on this podcast to talk about those. And so getting into it, UAE. So we've done a lot of coverage of the UAE, of Dubai, of Iraq, and also Riyadh. And so, Robert, is there anything that you want to highlight on quickly? I think there's a lot of episodes that everyone can listen to in this area.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for the viewers and anybody who's interested in investing in the UAE or Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or Oman, just understanding the markets, so like the UAE is more of a global hub for business, specifically Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And there's a lot of growth opportunities taking place, a lot of tourism initiatives, as well as smart city initiatives. And you have Saudi Arabia, which has the Vision 2030, as well as the fact that they've got NEOM and a few other projects. They're opening up to business right now. They're offering freehold land and opportunities. They've got big resorts opening up. They're trying to build environments that are very inviting to tourism and global citizens. So then Qatar, their wealth is built on energy, and they are expanding their focus on real estate and tech. And so that's a good area to be in because they're providing incentives to people who are looking to do business there or live there. And then you have Oman, and Oman is an emerging market within the UAE and the Middle East, and it's basically growing on tourism. It's a beautiful destination, seaside, a lot of great resorts, very eco-friendly. And so those are the breakdown of like the different markets, and depending on what you're looking for your investment, whether it be more tourism or for geared towards business, will determine which market you like.
So actually, sad confession, I've only been to the UAE of all of those countries. So of those countries, can you help me understand? The UAE is really forward thinking. They're very modern. Like we've talked about, they're kind of the wealthy's playground. If you go outside of Dubai, you get to Iraq, which is a little bit more family friendly. But tell me about let's start with Qatar. So who would be someone that might be interested in Qatar? What does it feel like when you go there? Is it sleepy? Is it tech forward? Is it like, do I feel like I'm in the middle of Paris?
Yeah, it's very tech forward. I want to say that, the FIFA World Cup was recently held there, and there was a lot of infrastructure that was built for that. So there's a lot of infrastructure that's been left behind, not like it's trash, but like they've built great infrastructure for the massive amounts of people that came during FIFA or the World Cup. And so now you have that infrastructure that's there to support the citizens and the tourism and so forth. And so you've got that aspect. You've got the fact that they're very rich off oil and energy. And so they're able to drive those dollars over to building building up their citizens, they want to be on the global map. They want businesses to open up corporations there, just like they're doing in the UAE and Dubai and so forth, and Abu Dhabi. And so they're trying to compete, and they've got they have a lot of great things to offer. It is a big city. It does feel very vibrant, a lot going on. It's not like Dubai in terms of the fact that, Dubai is more loose and open. You can do more. There's alcohol, there's parties and so forth. Whereas Qatar is a little bit different. I'm sure that you guys saw a lot of the news around the FIFA World Cup and people weren't allowed to drink beer. So that kind of gives you an idea of the environment there.
Okay, but I want people to know, in case it's not to say that they're not having fun. There's a coffee shop culture in the Middle East, and the coffee shop is kind of where people go to hang out and to socialize. And they're like the
There's
coffee shops are open all night until, yeah, exactly. So if you're actually looking for a healthier lifestyle and maybe you want to be social and you want to break from alcohol, this could be your place. Like something like this could be what you need. And actually, I remember going to Istanbul and feeling really wholesome because people, meet at 10 o'clock at night to have a coffee and a pastry, and you don't wake up with a hangover the next morning. But
Yes.
you did spend the whole night with friends and socializing, and I thought that was really cool. Um, and so tell me about first, what city do you recommend if you're going to Qatar?
Uh, Doha is the capital, and because Qatar is not really, um, it's not famous yet. It's not like a huge destination that people are thinking about going to. You want to be
Mhm.
careful, right? So Doha is the capital, and it's got great infrastructure, and the government wants it to grow, and it's a beautiful city. And so if you're gonna go to Qatar, stick to the capital city for right now. Look for the emerging markets, because that is the joy of the Middle East. There's plenty of emerging markets that you can tap. So go into Doha, but then start looking at the surrounding markets to see what's up and coming, to see what infrastructure is being placed, to see if there's any large projects opening up or any large roads that are for connectivity. Those are all things that you look for in the Middle East that are going to dictate the future and the success of your investment in that location.
Okay. And for my listeners, in case you don't know how to find these emerging markets, I bet, Robert, you have some awesome hints. Um, the way that I do it is because I'm a traveler, usually I will go to a place and I'll book the first 2 nights in the capital city. And then I'll just start talking to people. I'll talk to the taxi drivers. I'll look at the advertisements. I'll look at everything. And usually you start to see a trend like, oh, everybody likes to go to this one place because it's really beautiful. And that's where I'll go. And I found really amazing locations this way because the locals know what's beautiful. But maybe, the local government doesn't have the best tourism marketing yet. And so you're not hearing about it outside of that country. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
What
think
are some other ways?
Alcor and Al Waka, those are two other cities that are like emerging and, driving
Okay.
tourist and business growth as well. It's like families and more affordable real estate
Okay.
purchases.
Amazing. Yeah. And this is where, again, everyone's always looking for the secret. Like, where's the place that I can get 20-30% returns on my investment? Um, this is it. You want to go towards the places that have the infrastructure built, that already are seeing tourism, but maybe are not yet on the global map. Uh, Personally, um,
Yeah,
that's my
and
thing.
like I've used Dubai South as a great example of what you just said. Dubai South, there's Al Maktoum Airport, which will be the largest passenger and cargo airport in the world, and that's being built and open. It'll be opened up. They'll be transferring all the traffic from DXB over to Al Maktoum Airport. That whole area is going to grow exponentially for many different
Mm,
reasons, whether it's commercial or residential. And so,
right.
knowing that and understanding that is going to help. There's other markets, within the UAE that you have transportation systems that are being installed. And if you know about the transportation system being installed, you invest early enough, you're going to benefit from those capital appreciation increases that are going to happen with the economy growing in that local area. So it's very important to stay in the know on, like you said, the submarkets, the cities around, and then as well as the infrastructure projects that are taking place that are going to increase the probability of success and mitigate your risk of investment.
Okay. Amazing. And what about, okay, so some people have heard of Saudi Arabia 2030. I watched a few YouTube videos on it. I thought it personally, I felt it was a little bit out there. Like they want to have 30% of the vehicles being autonomous vehicles. They have created these like super high tech like cities that are not just like not just Flintstones, but they're like or not. What is it? The Jetsons. It felt a little bit like the Jetsons, like what they're trying to go after. If anyone is old enough to remember that who's listening, um, what are your thoughts on that project, and what are your thoughts on Saudi Arabia in general?
All right, so Saudi Arabia in 2024, by the time we end this year, they were estimated their GDP to grow to 3.4%, which is that's a good number, right?
Mhm.
Um, 2030 initiatives or the Vision 2030 initiatives, they're very powerful, but they're aimed at diversifying the economy because they want to move away from oil.
Okay.
So that's very good because that's what Dubai did. But Dubai started 20 plus years ago. You know, now Saudi is trying to come into the game. And NEOM is a huge project that the world knows about. However, the line, one of the parts of NEOM, has been scrapped. Not many people know about
Mm.
that. And I don't want, not many people know about it. So I hope that I hope I'm not wrong, but I've got this from real valid sources that the line is done. They're not going to complete it. They're not going to continue with the line. It became too expensive. A lot of, like a lot of different consultants came in, made their money, and they gave bad information. And as the project came to fruition, they figured that all out. And that's why the project is no longer. So I love the initiative that Saudi Arabia is taking. I think it's important. I think there's a lot of opportunity in Saudi, especially Riyadh and some other surrounding markets. But you got to be careful because they're not there yet. They're not to the level of Dubai, the UAE, or Abu Dhabi. They still have a long way to go. They still need to make freehold zones for people to come buy real estate. Um, they've got a lot to do. They've got a branding, issue as well. They've got to increase their brand. So not so much in the Middle East. People still like Saudi in the Middle East, and a lot of the tourists that come to Dubai and the UAE are coming from Saudi. Millions of tourists come from Saudi, right? And so it shows you the movement of the market over there. So I would say Saudi is a great opportunity to keep keep an eye on. However, I'm more focused on the UAE because they are more established, and Saudi Arabia has a lot of money. But even with all that money, look at the project like the line, which seemed that it was unfathomable to even bring to fruition. They tried. I give them credit for that, but they failed. And there's nothing wrong with that
So far.
so far. But
So far.
the fact of the matter is that because they have so much money, they can fail and start over and try another, you know, initiative, right? So uh, I'm a businessman. I look for opportunity, and I see opportunity there. When the government's so rich and they want to grow so much, if you go invest in the right sectors there, you can ride that growth. If you invest in the wrong sectors, you will lose. So I like Saudi. Just got to be very careful. You have to be a more you need to be what are they called? A more seasoned investor to go into Saudi. And when I say seasoned, you need to know the Middle East better than just watching our podcast or reading online. You got to go there, understand it, meet the people, and that's the best way to get into any market, of course. So
Definitely, definitely. Um, Although I do want to add, not everybody has the ability to go and spend months and really get to know the culture. And then that's when you really want to rely on an established, um, reputable real estate agency such as Pocket Listing, and also make sure that you're bringing in attorneys. So when you're bringing in those attorneys, you make sure that your contract is airtight. When you're working with established, reputable agencies, their reputation is on the line. So, like Robert said, he doesn't feel comfortable being in that area yet. Um, as I know, and I could be wrong, I don't believe, Robert, you're selling anything in Saudi Arabia yet. And so that just tells me that you're not comfortable with it enough to like put your reputation behind it. But maybe in the
yeah,
future.
exactly. And we are exploring projects in Saudi outside of real estate. You know, I do have a portfolio of companies in other industries, and I am exploring opening up operations within certain verticals within Saudi Arabia. So I
Mhm.
am implanting myself into that region and that market. And as I become either more confident or less confident, that'll determine whether we offer any real estate in Saudi.
Well, say, I do the same thing with my own business. Like I'm always testing things on my own. Like I open my own accounts, I open my own properties, I open whatever, and every crazy new idea I'm testing on mine first, and sometimes it's amazing and sometimes it fails. But I want to trial it on myself first before putting it out there
No, and
to my
that's a
clients.
conscientious decision. It's a blessing that you think that way. If more people did business that way, it would be a better world. And it's very important that we ourselves as business owners and leaders, people who are leading others into new markets or new opportunities, that we've done it ourselves and that we understand the market and the concept. And I think it's great that you do all that, and I applaud that.
Okay, so moving down the list, then we talked about Qatar, Oman. Oman is the last one. What are your thoughts on Oman? And I have somebody else, by the way. We are going to talk in a little bit more depth about Oman. I met the most amazing real estate investor who's investing in real estate around the world. He advises in real estate investment around the world. And when I met him, his residency was Oman. He said for tax purposes, I believe it's a tax haven.
It
Uh,
is. It's another tax haven, just as the UAE offers some tax havens. You've got uh, Muscat, which is it's a strategic coastal location. It drives a lot of there's a lot of new development projects that are taking place. Like they have the Wave, which is a beautiful project, and there's a lot of attractive opportunities in the luxury market there. Oman is a very tourist-driven market. It's very picturesque, beautiful. You can go by boat or plane. Um, there's a lot of government initiatives that are aimed at economic diversification, which helps you as the investor. And particularly their focus is real estate and tourism. So, those two things we're focused on, of course. And like the Dubai and Abu Dhabi, they do have they have factors that entice people to come there. And it is a strong, stable market for residential and hospitality projects.
Um, but I will say my advice from my colleague was don't buy just anything. He unfortunately, as a real estate investor for a long time and a real estate advisor, he bought into a bad project. So if you're there, ask around, really ask from all of the expats living in the area. Ask everyone you meet who's in real estate, like, where should I be investing? Make sure that the company that you're working with has a reputation there. Uh, do not fall into the
Yeah,
same trap that he did. I
Yeah,
feel
and
for him.
also understand Oman's a very small market compared to the rest. Like, whereas a country like Saudi Arabia will experience, a few percent in GDP growth, Oman will be lucky to see 1.2, 1.3% at the end of this year, right?
Not so
And
good. Yeah.
it's largely influenced by the country's diversification, which is great. It shows you that they're on the right path forward. But you see, like, for instance, Oman has oil money, and that oil sector it's showing decline, you know, but their non-oil activities, they include manufacturing, they include like services for the manufacturing, and then they also like have the tourism aspect. And so when you combine all 3 or 4 of those industries, it is a good place that it's going to grow, but it's a very slow growth. And so take that into consideration if you're thinking about Oman. It's not a place where you're going to go see 20, 30% capital appreciation in a short amount of time. It's a place you'll definitely see capital appreciation. And there's definitely a great rental market there for tourism, because a lot of people are traveling there from Dubai, like locals. They call it staycations
Right.
in a way. They just go to Oman. So Oman's a great area for that. And that's only going to grow as the UAE grows. So Oman, get in there now, but get in there with no expectation of a quick, turnaround. Go into Oman with a long-term vision, right?
Yeah.
Buy and hold in Oman, put some cash there, get a good rental return, long-term rental returns from good residents that will, stay in the property for years at a time, and just sit on it and explore other parts of the UAE. Why you do that? Go get some faster appreciation opportunities like in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and some Iraq, and then have that long-term investment in Oman, because it's definitely a market to not sleep on.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know, I've not been to Oman, like I explained at the beginning of this. But I believe Oman is more of a family-friendly area. Is that correct?
Very friendly, yes, very family
Okay.
friendly.
So yeah, it's not the place to go party again. It's a place for a wholesome life. They do have some nature, I believe. So like if you want to spend time in nature, don't I could be wrong on that, but I believe they have some water activities and also desert activities. Is that correct?
Beautiful water and desert activities. Beautiful, like
Amazing. Yeah.
breathtaking,
So even if you just want
out
to
of
go on a
this world.
vacation,
Yes,
amazing. Yeah.
go.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
if
the
you're in the
Middle East,
UAE, go. It's definitely worth it.
uh,
You can get on a boat and go in 5 or 6 hours, or you can get on a plane and be there a very very short amount of time. The boat ride
and
is the
now I
best
want to
though.
go tomorrow.
Take the boat, and if anything, if you can afford to take a boat take a motor yacht, and
Mm,
you can sleep in it and eat on it, and take it to
mm,
Oman, dock in Oman, and that is the way you do Oman, in
okay.
my
Well, I mean,
preference and
the
opinion.
real
So
estate might not be the best. Okay, so maybe you want to invest in motor yachts in Oman.
when I say that,
Motor
I'm
yacht.
saying the way that I would go see Oman. I'm not going to invest in any motor yachts in Oman, but I'm saying take a boat that you can sleep and eat on, and that's the best way to go and experience not only the Gulf but Oman.
Amazing. Yeah. And if you're into snorkeling, diving like I am, I'm telling you, the Middle East is unprecedented for coral. Because I think a lot of people in the Middle East don't snorkel, and so the only one going into the water is tourists for the most part.
Yes.
And that means that the reefs are pretty pristine still. Unfortunately, they don't know how to take care of the reefs. So like I watched a guy like uh, throwing potato chips at the fish, and I almost had a heart attack. But if you want to see it, go out. It's really beautiful. Okay, so legal and cultural considerations. I want to gloss over legal because we went into pretty in-depth conversation about this in another podcast. But I do think cultural considerations is something to talk about in the Middle East. And I want to disclaim that the Middle East is not one culture. For anyone who thinks it's a homogenous culture throughout the Middle East, you're very wrong. Um, but so there are nuances in every country. But we're gonna try and talk a little bit about it. So Robert, I'll let you start with the UAE. What is the culture of the locals there? And also, can you expect to interact with the locals there?
Okay. So first, I want to say the Middle East is built on business and relationships. Okay. Like if you're doing business, you're going to build it on a relationship, and the Middle East is built on business, right? And
A little bit.
so investors, you have to be aware of the business etiquette. You have to know the importance of face-to-face meetings and understand the local customs. Because even though that it is a very like foreign national driven society, meaning like the expats, there's over, there's over 80 to 85% of the country's expats. Dubai's done an amazing job at holding tight their culture. So even though that a majority of the people there are not even Emiratis anymore, they have done a great job at keeping that culture in place. So yes, there's different things that you're not going to, like if you go to Sharjah, which is it's a dry emirate, meaning there's no alcohol to be sold in Sharjah. You're not going to see the same type of party scenes that you see in Dubai. Same thing if you go to Abu Dhabi, you won't see that. And so, that there's still culture in Dubai, but it's not necessarily like, Sharia law, right? But there's still culture, and
Wait,
it's a beautiful
I
culture.
wanted to stop really quickly. If we're going to talk about culture, I think the first thing that we should talk about is the split between the two. So you have talk through Sharia law really quickly. So you
Okay.
have the Sunnis, if I understand it correctly, you have the Sunnis and the Shiites, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
the countries are divided between the two. And some countries have both. And in those countries that have both, usually the regions are divided. So you have like a Sunni region and a Shiite region, and usually someone who's Sunni won't go into Shiite regions and vice versa. Um, and this is a breakdown of like they're both Islamic, correct? They're both
Mm-hmm.
subsects within Islam.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It's
testing
Islam.
my understanding of Islam here. They're both subsects within Islam, and then from that falls all of the laws. And I believe, okay, now I could be very wrong. I believe the Shiites are much stricter than the Sunnis. Is that correct?
Um, I want to say that sounds about right, but don't hold me to that.
Okay.
Sharia law, I don't want to talk too much about it with all due respect to it. Everybody has their own culture and their values. And I, for one, I mean, my children are being raised Muslim because their mom is from Morocco and she's a Muslim. I'm very familiar with Islam. I practice Ramadan. I'm not Muslim, but I do like Ramadan. I think it's a great way to many benefits, not only spiritually religious, but also personal. And, so I respect Islam and the religion. I don't necessarily agree with all of Sharia law, but I have to respect it because I do respect Islam and the people. And it's one of the most beautiful religions in the world. A lot of people don't understand that because they've, watched TV and they see what's going on all over the world with, Middle Easterns and so forth. So they have their own thought process that is not verified, but I do have a verified thought process because I lived with a Muslim for 12 years and I've done business in the Middle East for the last 8 years. And so I want to say that it's a beautiful religion. It's nothing to be afraid of. There are areas that do practice Sharia law, and you don't want to go into those areas and break the law because they are their own country. They do have their own laws and they have their own consequences. And we as Americans or, Europeans or anybody that's not from that world are not going to agree with it. So, but in Dubai, you are not operating a Sharia law. People are still allowed to go out. You want to be respectful to the culture. You don't want to go out with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, same sex or different sex relationship, and hug and kiss and hold hands. That's disrespectful. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm an American and I have freedoms, but I still am okay with not going out and showing, public displays of affection, right? Because I respect people. You can't be drunk in public, that's a good thing. Why would you want that? A lot of the laws that the Americans and other, foreign nationals will think are so strict, that's what keeps Dubai the fourth safest city in the world. And a lot of the cities in the world, they come from the UAE. There's multiple cities from the UAE that are the safest in the world, and there's a good reason behind that. And so we can say, oh, well, I want my freedom and I want to be able to go get drunk and run in the streets and I want to be able to do all XYZ things that I can't do in those countries. Well, then that's why we live in America and have the problems that we have. And in another country that doesn't have a stricter guideline for life and the way to live it and do business. And those laws also benefit the people doing business in the UAE because now you're safeguarded by the government who's implemented, for instance, in Dubai, the Dubai Land Department, and then they have their whole legal system just for real estate investment and investors and the owners of the properties to protect all parties. We don't have that in the United States. So people can talk negatively about some of the laws that are implemented within these countries, but a lot of these laws are what keeps them the safest cities and countries in the world, and also the safest place for investment. So
Amazing. And I did just, I'm sorry, I Googled it while you were talking, and we're both wrong. So it's actually how the law is interpreted. So some countries are stricter and others less strict under both. So for anyone who cares, that's what I Googled. That's as far as I got. And if you are practicing Islam and you want to give more insight, please, I would love it. Share more with us. It would actually help since it's not my religion. But it is interesting to learn about. Okay. And so let's talk about how much can you speak to the cultural considerations for Qatar and Oman? Because I feel like these are a little bit, in my mind, a little bit bigger countries. We've heard a lot about Saudi Arabia. We've heard a lot about the UAE. Um, Qatar and Oman. What is the culture like there?
well, again, all of the Middle East has a baseline, a foundation that their culture is built upon, right?
Right.
And it's the same foundation,
Right.
Islam, right? And so it's not going to be as lenient as Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Iraq, right?
Right.
It's going to be more aligned with their culture and, their belief systems. So, you're not going to have access to alcohol as much as you do in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai. I'm sorry. I don't know about Abu Dhabi. I've never had a drink in Abu Dhabi, actually. But like Dubai, it's, as long as there's establishments that serve alcohol, whereas you're not going to find that if as prevalent as if you go to Qatar. You might not even find that in Qatar. I'm not aware of it. I'm not, I don't hang out in Qatar a lot. So I'm not looking, for business is different than going for pleasure. So, I'm not out there partying and drinking. So I don't know what's there, but I can tell you that you're going to be more laid back in Dubai and you're going to be more uptight in these other countries because you do need to watch what you say. Like you don't want to cuss. You don't want to yell at people. But in Dubai, you don't want to cuss or yell at people. You can get in trouble. You can get arrested, right? So
Yeah, I do want to disclaim that theoretically you can get arrested, but in practical terms, what I understand of the area is they're not really applying these laws until you
they're
become a
really
nuisance.
cool. They're
Yeah,
cool. All I can say is be honest. I've seen some people get out of some problems that they should have been deported for, and they just were honest.
right.
That's it. And I'm not saying that's going to help you every time, but honesty goes a long way in these countries, especially Dubai, based on my experience personally. So I would say, yes, they can arrest you. Are they going to always arrest you? That's going to be determined on you and how you as a person react in that situation. And if you're respectful and you're honest and you showcase the fact that you're not doing it on purpose, there's going to be more leniency. But another part of Dubai is that Sheikh Mohammed wants to make it more inviting to tourists. So, for instance, like a lot of people know about marijuana. So,
Okay.
if you flew into that country, there's people who have had a leaf stuck in their shoe in the thread or the sole of their shoe, and they got arrested and put in jail. There's a woman right now that's from Texas, and she apparently touched an airport security person. She's in jail now. And she got sentenced to a long sentence in jail. She's going to get out, though. They're going to deport her back to the United States. And that's how long she'll be there until she gets a flight from the UAE back to the United States. But it is scary to people to hear that. And people tell me all the time, Robert, be careful. Be careful. I have so much fun. And I'm going there next week. And I'll be there for the rest of the month. I love it there. I don't ever feel that I'm in danger of saying or doing the wrong thing. I'm a respectful person. And if
Right.
you're a respectful person, then you'll have no issues, because disrespectful people go out and look for problems. Respectful people, they stay to themselves, and they're not going to act in a manner that's disrespectful. And in that case, you're going to be just fine. And all those strict guidelines is what keep it safe. It's what allows me to walk around and not get robbed. It's what allows me to keep my car turned on while I go into a meeting, unlocked. The car's unlocked and the vehicle's on, the keys in the ignition, and it's still there when I come back. I'll have my laptop in the
Amazing.
car, my glasses, my Rolex, whatever. It's all there when I come back. I will take the strict guidelines and rules to achieve that lifestyle,
Mhm.
rather than say, oh, well, I want to be able to cuss at somebody or hit them or go out in public drunk or do all the things that just make us look bad as Americans anyways. I want to do all that. So I'm not going to go to
Don't
Dubai.
go to the Middle East. If that's you. Um, I
Yeah,
will say, I feel like Robert, you're like, if I had not been to the Middle East, listening to what you have to say would scare me. I've been there, and I will tell you, just be respectful. If you anywhere in the world, if you don't know the local law, be respectful. I will say, like, if you are a touchy feely, affectionate person, maybe ask first before you give a hug. Can I give you a hug? They might say no, and don't be offended. It's just a difference in culture. But aside from that, like, if you, I don't know this story, but I guarantee you, if you if you touch someone and they were taken back, you would say, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood. I'm so sorry. Please, my sincerest apology," and it would be forgotten. Because at
exactly.
least in the UAE and Saudi Arabia, they're used to tourists already. They understand that there are different cultures and they really want us to come. And so they're going to, as long as you're respectful, they're not going to make an issue of it. If you're disrespectful, and even like holding hands and kissing, I've sat with couples that are holding hands and kissing, nobody's kicking them out. But if you are blatantly drunk, disrespectful, cussing, hitting, trashing something, you're gone. Like, you're on a plane home the next day. And it looks bad for them if they're arresting everybody. So I imagine they're doing this as a last resort. What I know, which is very limited of Oman and Qatar, you do want to be a little bit more respectful. Maybe ask your driver questions, let him lead you. Um, Maybe even start with getting a driver. Maybe go with a tour company if you're not a seasoned traveler in the Middle East. But I don't think you should ever, anywhere in the world, be afraid of like making a cultural faux pas and getting, arrested for the next 30 years, except for drugs. Do not bring drugs. Don't bring drugs to the Middle East. It is not tolerated outside of, I want to say, Israel is like fairly tolerant. I've heard friends who brought weed and just got a fine. I can't say that that's like something that you should do, but the rest of the Middle East, actually most of Asia also, don't bring drugs. Don't bring drugs, don't bring alcohol. You can, buy whatever is there and not in drugs and alcohol, and just be sober. But,
Thanks for clarifying.
yeah, so please don't buy drugs locally. Just please don't use drugs in the Middle East. It's not recommended, or in Asia. But for the rest, just enjoy the cultural differences, the food. We haven't talked about this. This is my favorite. There are two things that are my favorite part of the Middle East. Three things. The weather. I love the dry desert weather. The food is phenomenal. It is fresh. It is, I'm celiac. You can see every ingredient. They're not making these crazy sauces with everything hidden in it. What you see is what you're eating. And they're plucking it from the fields and putting it on your plate. It's like so delicious,
Your
10
whole
times better.
digestive system changes when you go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's because they literally are killing us. Not so bad in Europe. They're pretty good with their food in Europe, but they're not as good as they could be. In the US, they're killing us with our food. But in Dubai or the UAE, when I'm there, I'm eating the healthiest I've ever ate. I'm not gaining weight. I'm actually losing weight. And my whole digestive system changes for the better. And I notice it within the first 2 days of being there. And then I notice my digestive system change back as soon as I get back to the United States. And that's powerful data to showcase, what we're eating here in the US is compared to what you're eating when you're over there in Dubai or the UAE,
yeah. And,
very strict
and
guidelines.
the flavor, wow. If you're in the Middle East, make sure that you're eating tomatoes. These tomatoes, just because they're getting so much sun. Um, So all of this to say, if you want to start exploring investment in the Middle East, I do think you should probably go to the country first. I do think you should have a visit, see how you feel. Are you comfortable there? I, as a woman, am a little bit more selective where I go in the Middle East, just because it's personal choice, but I really personally prefer to be in places where local as well as foreign women are treated equally. So if a woman is considered a property or a servant, I'm probably not going to that country. Um, and it's just personal choice. But they are beautiful countries and beautiful cultures. And if that doesn't bother you, then do explore. And if it does bother you, maybe explore anyway and open your mind to another way of thinking. And see what the world can teach you. Any additional thoughts, Robert?
Oh, that's it. We're always happy to share more information on investing in the Middle East, and um, I will say you should go. That's all I can tell people is, like, you can hear Michelle and I speak about it. You can hear other people speak about it. You can watch YouTube videos all day about it. Just go. It's the best. It's one of the best decisions you'll ever make. And don't go with like, oh, I'm going to see if I'm going to invest. Just go to live life. That's all. And
Or for the
if you
water
have money to
sports,
invest, you
the
probably will want to
tomatoes.
invest. Yes, tomatoes and water sports. And
For the water
lamb, if
sports and
if
tomatoes.
you eat meat, lamb is amazing over there.
Yeah.
So
Wow, and the barbecue. Okay, stop. I'm
yes.
getting hungry.
Yes, Baba Shams. Go to Baba Shams if you end up going to Dubai. It's a beautiful desert dinner, all you can eat, and entertainment. It's so beautiful and nostalgic to the old days. And so Baba Shams. That's what I'll
Yes,
leave you with.
I gave someone this advice yesterday, actually. I said, make sure you do the desert camps. They're phenomenal. So thank you so much, as always,
Yes.
Robert. And if you have
Oh, it's
questions,
my pleasure. Thank you.
listeners, please drop an email. Thank you so much. Bye.
You guys have a great week.